Take a look at this. Two simple bowls of fine white powder. They look identical, smell like nothing, and feel the same between your fingers. To the untrained eye, they're interchangeable. But in the world of baking, this is the scene of a potential crime against confectionery. One of these is pure sodium bicarbonate, and the other is a carefully balanced mix of that same bicarbonate, an acid, and a starch. Mistake one for the other, and you're heading straight for a baking disaster. Have you ever followed a recipe for fluffy, sky-high pancakes, only to end up with sad, rubbery discs? Or maybe you spent an afternoon crafting what you hoped would be the perfect chocolate chip cookies, but they spread into thin, greasy, flat crisps in the oven? What about that beautiful birthday cake that looked so promising, but came out dense, heavy, and with a strange, slightly soapy aftertaste? We've all been there. You check your oven temperature, you measure your flour perfectly, you use the best quality chocolate, and still it fails. The frustration is real. You start to question your skills, your oven, even the recipe itself. But the culprit is often hiding in plain sight, right here in these two little bowls. Welcome to Consumer's Choice Top 5, the show where we cut through the confusion and give you the clear, practical knowledge you need to be a smarter consumer and a more confident creator in your own home. Today we're stepping into the kitchen to tackle one of the most common and costly sources of baking blunders, the great baking soda versus baking powder debate. We're not just going to tell you they're different. We're going to arm you with the why behind the science. We're diving deep to reveal the top 5 fundamental differences that separate these two leavening powerhouses. We'll explore their chemical composition, how they react with other ingredients, and why a recipe specifically calls for one over the other. By the end of this video, you'll be able to look at any recipe and understand exactly what the leavening agent is doing, why it was chosen, and how to use it for perfect results. No more guesswork, no more crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. We're here to make sure you never have to throw out a batch of failed baked goods again. This is your masterclass in leavening, and you'll definitely want to stick around until the very end. Because after we've broken down the top 5 differences, I've got not one, but 2 incredible bonus tips for you. First, we're going to solve a problem that plagues every home baker. How do you know if your baking soda or baking powder is still fresh? They can lose their potency sitting in your pantry, leading to failed bakes, even when you do everything else right. I'll show you a simple 10-second test using ingredients you already have that will give you a definitive answer and save you from future heartbreak. This is the freshness test that professional bakeries perform regularly. And for our grand finale hack, we've got a secret straight from a Michelin star pastry chef. It's a technique for controlling the spread of your cookies, ensuring they come out perfectly thick and chewy every single time. It's a game changer that most home bakers have never even heard of, but once you learn it, you'll use it forever. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But before we dive into difference number 1, we have a quick favor to ask. If you've ever felt the sting of a baking fail, or if you're just excited to finally master this topic, do us a huge favor and tap that like button right now. It's a small click for you, but it tells the YouTube algorithm that this is valuable content, helping other aspiring bakers find this video and save their cakes from collapsing. It's like giving a virtual high five to your fellow home cooks. And if you're passionate about becoming a better cook, a smarter shopper, and a more informed consumer, then hit that subscribe button and join our community. We release a new top 5 video every single week, tackling everything from the best non-stick pans to the secrets of making barista quality coffee at home. Finally, make sure you ring that little notification bell. Hitting the bell ensures you're the first to know when a new video drops. All right, are you ready? Let's get baking with science. First up, the science. Baking soda. Equal sign, pure sodium bicarbonate. It needs an acid like lemon juice, vinegar, or buttermilk to activate and release carbon dioxide. Baking powder. Equal sign baking soda plus acid plus starch, all in one. It activates with moisture and often again with heat. In short, baking soda needs help. Baking powder comes ready to party. Next, when do you actually use them? Recipes with natural acids like buttermilk pancakes, chocolate cake, call for baking soda. Recipes without enough acid, like plain cakes, muffins, biscuits, rely on baking powder. Get this wrong, and you'll end up with flat, dense, or even bitter results. Did you know baking soda can affect flavor? Too much baking soda leaves a metallic, soapy taste. Baking powder is gentler, giving a lighter rise without changing flavor too much. For crisp cookies, soda is your friend. For fluffy cakes, powder is the hero. Here's a consumer tip. Baking soda lasts practically forever if stored dry. Baking powder, on the other hand, loses strength after about 6-12 months. Hack: to test freshness, drop a spoon in hot water. Soda should bubble with vinegar. Powder should fizz all by itself. Always check before baking. It could save your recipe. Finally, let's talk cost. In the baking aisle, you'll notice baking soda is incredibly inexpensive, often under $1. Baking powder, however, is a more complex product, containing baking soda plus acid salts and a starch. This convenience comes at a cost, making it 2 to 3 times more expensive. This price difference is the first clue that these two products, while related, are not the same, and understanding why can save you money. But here's the marketing trick. They're placed side by side, and many recipes call for both, creating the illusion you need them all the time. This strategy plays on a baker's fear of a failed recipe. We see it on the list, we buy it. We don't want to risk a flat cake, so we stock our pantries without a second thought, boosting sales for manufacturers. In reality, knowing the science unlocks major flexibility. For instance, if you run out of baking powder, you can make your own. Just combine 1 part baking soda with 2 parts cream of tartar. So, for 1 teaspoon of baking powder, mix a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda with 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This creates a single-acting leavener that works the moment it gets wet. It's a game-changing hack. Going the other way is also possible. If a recipe needs baking powder and you only have baking soda, you must add an acid. For every teaspoon of baking powder, use a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, but also add an acidic ingredient like lemon juice or buttermilk. A common mistake is forgetting the acid, which results in a dense bake with a soapy, metallic taste. It's a chemical reaction where every component matters. Another critical mistake is using old leaveners. To test your baking soda, add a splash of vinegar. It should fizz vigorously. For baking powder, drop a spoonful into hot water. It should bubble up immediately. No reaction means no rise in your baked goods. A pro tip: write the date you opened the container on the lid. They're best used within 6 months, so don't let packaging fool you. Understanding this difference is empowering. You'll save money, prevent waste from failed recipes, and gain the freedom to adapt. That knowledge is the most valuable ingredient in your pantry, ensuring you never waste a recipe again. Here's your bonus hack. If you're out of baking powder, just mix 1/4 teaspoon baking soda plus 1/2 teaspoon cream of tartar. Instant homemade baking powder. That little trick has saved bakers for decades, and now you know it too. So, baking powder versus baking soda. What's the real difference? Let's do a final, supercharged recap to make sure this knowledge is baked into your brain for good. Remember, baking soda is pure sodium bicarbonate. Think of it as a solo artist that needs a backup band, in this case, an acid. When it meets something acidic like buttermilk, yogurt, or lemon juice, it throws a party, releasing carbon dioxide gas that gives your bakes lift. This reaction happens instantly, which is why you often see recipes instruct you to bake immediately after mixing. It's the secret behind the beautiful spread and crisp edges of your favorite chocolate chip cookies, and the rich, dark color of a classic devil's food cake. Baking powder, on the other hand, is the complete package. It's baking soda that comes with its own acid already mixed in, usually in the form of cream of tartar and other acid salts. Most of what you buy in the store is double acting. This is a game changer. The first reaction happens when it gets wet, giving your batter an initial boost. The second, more powerful reaction happens when it gets hot in the oven. This 2-stage lift is what creates those incredibly light, fluffy, and tender textures in things like pancakes, muffins, and sky-high vanilla cakes. Now let's talk about the most common pitfalls. The #1 mistake is using expired leaveners. Yes, they go bad. Over time, they lose their potency and your bakes will fall flat. Here's a pro tip: test them. For baking soda, drop half a teaspoon into a splash of vinegar. If you get a volcano of bubbles, you're golden. For baking powder, drop a teaspoon into a cup of hot water. A vigorous fizz means it's still active and ready to work its magic. Do this every 6 months and you'll never have a surprise baking fail again. And what if you run out of baking powder mid-recipe? Don't panic, you can make your own. Here's the magic formula. For every 1 teaspoon of baking powder you need, simply mix a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda with half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. If you have cornstarch, add a 1/4 teaspoon of that too. It acts as a stabilizer and prevents the mixture from reacting prematurely. It's a lifesaver of a hack that puts you in complete control of your ingredients. Now that you're armed with all this knowledge, it's your turn to join the conversation. We've all had that moment of panic, staring at a recipe and a container, wondering if we've just doomed our dessert. What's your biggest baking blunder involving these two? Was it a batch of cookies that tasted like soap, or a cake so dense it could be used as a doorstop? Share your story in the comments below. Let's learn from each other's mistakes. There's no shame in the baking game. If you finally feel confident telling these two apart and learned something valuable today, please give this video a like. It's a small click for you, but it makes a huge difference for our channel. Share it with a friend who's just starting their baking journey. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into kitchen science and our top 5 consumer guides. Thanks for watching and happy baking.